Welcome back to the program. Good morning. My name is Dr. Sock, 827. As we work our way through the morning together, say good morning to my good buddy Emil Lee, St. Martin Insights News that matters to you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to be here again.
And yeah, another week has gone by,
Yeah,
and I saw a lot happen yesterday at
indeed, a
Council.
lot happened at the Council of Ministers. Originally, it was just the Minister of Justice, and I was the only journalist there, which I love. To be honest, I love
Bravo.
it. But then the Prime Minister came in, so it was very lively. It was good, and it's all on the Island 92 Facebook page.
Yeah, I saw.
I've uploaded the videos so you can watch it.
Awesome.
And everybody else, all the media houses, they all pick the articles, but they don't pick the questions. And the questions that I pose are an integral part of their responses. So by all means, go online and watch the whole video. So
Brilliant. Brilliant. Would like to say good morning and welcome to Member of Parliament, the Honorable Viren Kotai. Welcome. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sock. Good morning to you. Good morning, Mr. Lee. Thank you for having me. And good morning to St. Martin.
I remember last time we talked, I think was right. We might have been like close to your first interview during campaign time.
Yes, I was just mentioning the last radio interview I did was at that period itself. So it's a breath of fresh air at least.
So I want to share something with both of you that happened this morning. Today is, what is today? Today is
25th?
23rd.
23rd of October.
Okay.
So I want to share with you an envelope that was in my mailbox this morning. There were several all like it, and they were all postmarked. What's the date on that envelope?
September 23rd.
And today is a month later. So postmarked a month ago. And by the way, the envelope is from the Tax Administration Office. And I know you're the recent chair of the Finance Committee.
Correct.
And, the Tax Administration Organization, the receiver, is what's responsible for collecting revenue.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, if I don't pay my taxes every month as a business, they're very quick to be jumping on the bandwagon and want to know, where everything is and sending out fictitious, made-up assessments. Where if they think you haven't sent it, whether you have or not, they'll send you an assessment that's based on God knows what, right? And lo and behold, I'm going to share with you these are payment receipts for tax payments that have been made. And this is what we said, the 10th month we're in now. The envelope was dated the 9th month. And just scroll through those. They're all folded. And what period are they for? April, May, I think in 1 June.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's May, June, and July.
Yeah.
3 months.
So how can we run? We like to call ourselves a country. We're barely a small town. How can we run ourselves when we can't even manage the financial administration? I mean, and here's here's just hands-on evidence.
Amongst other things, right? Like
Yeah.
there are many other systems in place that run on, I would say, island time. Sorry to say it like that.
Yeah.
I think holistically, the whole department needs.
But Sock, let me ask you. I assume these are receipts for online payments that you've made,
Yes.
right? So like normally, like if you buy something on Amazon, right? You order it,
Immediately, you'd get the
30 seconds later you get an email back with a confirmation of your purchase, right?
Right.
Look at the administration. So I mean, this really does go to finance, actually, right?
Mhm.
Look at your administration, the amount of time it now takes that you're actually printing receipts. Somebody's folding them, putting into an envelope. Somebody's taking it to the post office, rather than just an automated response that shows on X date, this account transferred this much money, and in your payment, I'm sure it says, the reason you paid it for invoice or for this month or for this reason. I mean, of course, government says they don't have enough workers, or because they're doing things in an archaic way.
very, very much correct, Mr. Lee. And actually, that's one of the many points that I've been repeating over time is digitizing our processes, right? from top to bottom, whether it's applying for a building permit, a business license, or even um, as not as simple, but an example like now receiving your receipts, right? There's no softwares in place within our structure that allows the different departments to automate. And of course, as you just said, we're moving in a manner that we're living in the early 2000s, which is wrong. And I've been repeating
Or
this
older.
Yeah.
or older. I've been repeating this over budget debates, over central committee meetings, and the responses I get is yes, we are looking into going into a digitalized future, but how long? It always comes back to that.
We'll get to a digital world when it will be old,
Yeah.
and we're ready to move from the digital world to whatever's next.
Yeah, I mean, Web3 is already at its level where it's ready to burst, and we are very much behind that at the moment.
So let's take this to a real helicopter perspective. One of the reasons that we invited you in is because I saw that you are now chairman of the Finance Committee in Parliament. So can you explain what does that mean? What role do you have, and what authority do you have in that position as chairperson of the Finance Committee?
I mean, my role as the chairman of the committee, via Parliament, I can overlook everything that's going on within finance. I can bring the matters at hand, which I feel the minister should be on the floor of Parliament. And the good part of it is the Minister of Finance is a minister from the party that I'm representing as well. So communication is smoother, I would say, in terms of trying to find the real matters at hand that need to solve. But at the moment, I would say that the minister is also busy. She just handed in budget amendment 2025. Budget 2026 is to come. So I myself at the moment have said that we will allow the minister to provide such information before some matters that I and others may feel um, are of hand should be addressed on the floor of Parliament.
So you can bring up topics on your own.
Correct.
You don't need other members of
I mean,
Parliament.
I would need so for example, if a meeting is requested by three different members of Parliament via the chairperson, it would go through myself, and then I would confirm with the minister for that particular meeting. But for myself, I can always talk to the minister and have that lobby in terms of if she's able to come for if she's okay for this meeting for one. What can we do to resolve the issues that I find are at hand prior to coming to the floor of Parliament? If so, and if it needs to come to the floor of Parliament, then how can we work around her schedule? So,
Okay. So can I make a suggestion to you?
yes.
The budgets that the Ministry of Finance is going to present, take them and basically just throw them away because they're really difficult to understand. You can't figure out anything in terms of how government as a business actually operates, right? Because there's some really fundamental questions that I think government needs to answer, and therefore, as Parliament, as Finance Committee, the first question being, and Soc, like any business, the first thing is, how much
do we
money do we need to run this business, right? Government, in my opinion, has adopted this very dangerous mantra of, oh, but there's not enough money, right? So it becomes an excuse for absolutely everything, right? And it's almost a recipe for failure in that you're already starting with, well, we'll never be able to do it because we don't have enough money, right? So maybe you need to, as government, and this is where, again, the Prime Minister came out in the recent conference, the Governor's Symposium, and he says, and I'm going to quote, "We have built a system that looks impressive on paper, but financially and functionally is too heavy for our population size." So number one, government has said, we don't have enough money. So the Minister of TIATS said, we need 200 to 250 million guilders more. The budget's is over 500,000, 500 million guilders. So you're talking about what, like a 40% increase in your budget size, right? So for me, the first question is the size of government appropriate? what budget do we need? What are we doing in terms of reducing costs, being more efficient, and how can we are we forget about generating new taxes, but the taxes and fees that are out there, are we
Collecting
collecting
it.
what we're supposed to collect? So for me as finance, just throw the budget away, start with a blank sheet of paper and start with some basic questions of how much money do you need? How much
So I would structure things in two buckets. So we have our three buckets. You have revenue and expenses.
Mhm.
On the expense side, you have certain things that you have to pay for regardless of what happens.
Correct.
They're non-discretionary expenses. I got to pay for this whatever happens. And so if you take all of those and then you take what your anticipated revenue is, and if I say, okay, my anticipated revenue is 500 million guilders, and I've got 250 million guilders
That you have to
worth
pay
of
guaranteed.
that they're non-discretionary. I got to pay this no matter what, and I have 250 million left. Well, that's what you have to work with for all the projects, programs, and other
Agreed.
things that you want to do. And when you try and look at the existing budget document, you can't get your arms around those numbers.
Like that's the thing, right? Like for my first couple experiences during a budget, I realized that the budget debate itself had, especially the last one, had nothing to do with the actual budget that was on the floor. I mean, I guess there was a little curveball thrown with the dividends withholding tax being mentioned on the floor of parliament during a central committee, which threw diverted everyone, even myself, I would say, for the budget on the floor. But we didn't get to that matter, right? I still to now don't understand, and I'm be very honest with it, how much is actually owed to, how much are we in debt of to whoever we owe. That's for one. Secondly, as you just mentioned, the
And I'm sorry, that's a great question because I've asked the Minister of Finance since I think March of this year to provide an overview of what St. Martin's debt position looks like, how much interest do you have to pay, what are the annual obligations? No answer.
exactly,
No
and
answer. So, indeed, the first question is out of the budget that I have, how much money do I have to pay? There's no question about is it negotiable? No. This is what St. Martin's. So, again, bring this back to the guy on the street. You have a mortgage payment, you have whatever debts. There's no question about I got to pay my car, I got to pay my mortgage. If I don't, the bank takes it and I have nowhere to live. So,
correct,
these are not negotiable items,
correct,
right?
and we I mean, as I can talk for myself, I still to now do not understand completely holistically what is completely owed to, whether it's the Netherlands or whoever else. Sorry, whoever else have provided assistance to the island that we owe interest to and monies to.
Well,
So
it's yeah. One of the questions that, and I asked this question to a number of, and I haven't had the opportunity to meet and interview yet our sitting Minister of Finance, and I did send a message to her. She told me she'd get back to me, and I still have not heard back. Um, but as the Minister of Finance, you're effectively the chief financial officer of
The country.
of the
Agreed.
country,
Yep.
and so I would expect that you should be able to see on a monthly basis, you know, a balance sheet, an income statement, cash position, a list of receivables, a list of payables, so you can figure out how to run the organization.
but you know, funny enough, sorry to
Eh,
cut you off,
we don't
doctor.
have that.
I've asked a good while back, right when I was in the first after the first election, just meeting everyone. I asked actually ex Minister of Finance that question, right? Like, are you able to see, you know, dot to the down to the decimal, how much is being spent at the end of the month and how much is being received? And he's like, no, because there's so many moving parts. So I understand that part. And you just mentioned something about tax compliance,
It's a
right?
huge problem.
Um, I would like to understand, because outside the minister's purview and the individual sitting in the cabinet, the civil servants have been there for years, so they are well versed with what's supposed to be collected every year. But is it really the full collection of what's we're supposed to collect? So if 45 million guilders is collected in profit tax every year, and in actuality we should be collecting per se 75 million, is the department just going off the numbers of, okay, yeah, we've reached the 45 million threshold this year, it's fine. These are our numbers. So where's the compliance
Well,
to
compliance is a huge problem here, and it has always been a huge problem here. And the thing that often happens is rather than go after the people that aren't complying, how many times have I received assessments that just out of nowhere that are based on nothing that make absolute no sense. Here's a $200,000 Gilder assessment, so I can put that on the books as a receivable, and then wait, and then go through the dispute process, only so I could have to spend time, effort, and money to have that removed.
no,
It happens all the time,
no.
and we rather than go after the people that aren't in the system, that aren't paying taxes, we just go after the people that are. That's a problem.
It is, and I think it's unfortunate. It didn't start this time. It's been going on for years. Coming from parents who had business as well, and seeing how, you
I'm
know,
not. I'm not telling you anything you haven't watched
no,
mom
no,
and dad live through, right?
no. I've exactly. I've seen that, and I've also heard from a lot of business individuals of, yeah, we're the highest profit tax rate in the region. How do you expect us to even comply? So imagine being told straight up to your face, yeah, we're not complying with that high profit tax. There are ways around it.
We just don't make a profit, right?
Yeah,
There are legal
Ways
ways around
around
it.
it, right?
So people would rather pay salaries, or so they'd create structures to avoid it.
correct.
So
We would generate much more revenue by, in my opinion, right, eliminate the TOT because that's a horrible aggressive tax that just causes inflation, and lower the profit tax to something simple and easy, 10%, 20%, 15%.
Realistically, like Aruba, I believe, is 22%. So I'd say around that range. And this was my issue with the DWT, right? Introducing
What's DWT?
dividends withholding
Oh, okay, I
tax.
got it.
Sorry. My issue with that was at the time, I have at that time I didn't see any complete tax reform, a structure where profit tax is reduced. They focus on the different taxes that our general population is incurring on a month-to-month basis, but a tax, not a new tax, but a tax that was there on the books from the Netherlands Antilles days is coming up as a projected revenue on a future budget. So this is where, like, I had a lot of problems with that because we haven't simplified our current structure. Our current structure is not made for people to be compliant. So actually the minister has told me that she will be returning with a plan within the next month, hopefully, moving forward. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing the whole reform as a whole, at least.
So she's planning on presenting to Parliament the outline of a tax reform proposal?
Well, firstly, she's going to show it to us as DP, of course.
So your political party, she
Political
will
party.
show you what she's got in mind.
Yeah, of
okay?
course, for our discussion. And then, of course, she'd bring it to the floor of Parliament once we could see it all through, because we don't want to end up in a way that I'm in disagreement with a decision. I'm not the only person within the 15 in Parliament, but you wouldn't want anybody from your own party to not see eye to eye on a public forum, and that's a mistake I think that's been made.
A number of times.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, let me do this. Let's take a quick commercial break. We'll come back. It's 8:46 right here in the Northeast Caribbean. More with Emil Lee, our managing editor of Crude Broadcasting Network News. More St. Martin Insights news that matters to you with our special guest this week, Member of Parliament, the Honorable Viren Kotai. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Well, good morning. It is what time? 8:50 right here in the Northeast Caribbean. Emil Lee is with us, Member of Parliament, the Honorable Viren Kotai. Welcome back, gentlemen. And where do we go next?
So we're talking about your position as chairperson of the Finance Committee of Parliament. Our recommendation to you is throw the budget presentation away and ask just back of napkin questions. How much money do you even need? If you can't tell me how much money you need to run government properly, then I have no idea
what's
what you're
the
doing.
point?
I'm going to throw something on the table. I want to handpick the Dr. Sock dream team. So the three of us, Ludi, Ardwell, Arian. I would invite. I don't know our current Minister of Finance, Minister Gums, but I would include her because she's sitting in that
Yeah.
position.
You have to.
And let's all. I'm happy to host it here. We'll sit here and we have a whiteboard session. Put the flip chart up and let's sit down and put all of the stuff we have aside for a second. We need to know some big picture stuff. How much revenue can we expect to bring in? Who do we owe money to? And how much do we owe? And what are the terms? When's it due? And
What's left over?
yeah, and then let's talk about and what's our total non-discretionary expenses for the year, and then let's build it. I'm sure that we could spend a Saturday and do this,
Yeah.
just for fun.
How many government vehicles do you have? Why do you like private sector? I mean, even like a company like Domino's, right? That has people delivering all the time. The employees use their own vehicles to deliver, and then they reimburse them based on mileage, right? Why wouldn't you do that the same with government? And actually, when the tax department comes to audit you, the first thing they say is, "Oh, but you're using a company vehicle, but you're using it for personal use. So therefore, we're going to assess part of that as part of your income because it's a benefit
And tax you for
and
it.
tax you for it." Why don't they do that with government? When I go to the schools to pick up my kid, there's all these L plates in the parking lot there picking up kids. I'm like, it obviously isn't that critical.
It comes down, I guess, to the enforcement and then the entitlement of being used to doing this for how many ever years. Tomorrow, I'd please correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Lee. When you were the minister, did you have a track of everything that went, like your cars? Did you see where it went?
So normally vehicles fall under the Ministry of General Affairs, but because we got our set of vehicles from Holland after Irma, I put vehicle trackers in all of our
Okay,
trucks.
someone was telling me something along the lines.
And at the end of the day,
didn't understand
you would
it
see the
clearly.
vehicles parked in the parking lot. I knew where they were, where they went, and I got a message on my phone if they went to the French side, because basically your business is on the Dutch side. You have no business being on the French side. Fuel costs went down, damage to vehicles went down. So indeed, why not put trackers in all the government
Interesting.
vehicles?
Yeah.
And if you can see that the car comes in the morning, stays there all day, and then goes at night, why am I supplying a vehicle? Then
Because you're also paying the fuel costs as well.
yes. So
Yeah, and
simple
the insurance
things.
and everything else that goes with it. It
And
just doesn't make sense.
maintenance.
It doesn't make
Yes.
sense.
Yeah.
So travel costs, do you have a travel policy? I don't know, Sock, do you remember that the big automakers in the U.S. were having a huge financial problem, and they were going to Washington to request a bailout?
This is
Years ago,
this
years
is like in the 70s, early
No,
80s.
no, earlier,
Yeah.
more recent. And they all flew on private jets to Washington, and the meeting got shut down, and Congress was like,
I remember
"How
this.
serious are you? You're talking about you need financial help, and you just flew here in your
this was
Gulfstream?"
this was during COVID.
Yes, right? Yeah. So I would ask the same thing. If you say you don't have money for food programs, for enough police officers, what's the problem with if you're flying to New York? It's a 3-hour flight. What's the problem with flying economy if
Yeah.
it's so important?
I do not see any problem with that. For myself personally, as a regular citizen, when I fly personally, I fly in economy. So why should I expect anything different? And I try to tell everyone along the same lines. Some may see differently and say, yeah, they're the representatives of the country and they need to be held at a certain standard. But at the end of the day, the country is suffering. Um, I've had the mindset growing up that yes, when there is a financial issue, we can look at it in two ways. Either we're going to save money or we're going to make more money. And then the third way is do it both ways, right? Save and make. But I believe our revenue generating measures, there has been a lack of for many years, right? There have been things on the books. For example, there is this has been spoken about the first time I came on this radio station, and to now it's not solved. The Airbnb and VRBO tax collection. You know, there's
You don't need a
the-
legislative
about
change.
Yeah, the simple vacation
Right.
home rental
yeah.
tax.
I mean, there's your shortage of what 11 to 15 million that's missing in this collection.
that's a lot of money.
Something around that, and then
And it doesn't require a legislative change. It just requires people making a decision to go after it.
What you know what it requires? It requires that same organization that has trouble getting me my receipts, my for
Yeah,
payments
correct.
that I've made to be able to streamline the process by which they can issue tax
And we
identification
could-
numbers, crib numbers to those people that are not residents of St.
and,
Martin.
and we could circle back to that the digitalization of of our systems, because for example in the Netherlands, if I have an apartment I want to put it up on Airbnb, I need to apply for a tax number and ID
The
that
registration.
yeah,
number.
that
Listen,
automatically.
I have two guest houses on my property. We pay our taxes, have a crib number, the whole bit. We do it every month. It gets rented, we pay. We have just
yeah.
2 minutes left.
So
Emil.
I want to throw in another topic here because
We have 2 minutes.
yes, you're going to get ambushed this year. Okay. The general health insurance, or as they call it, the SAHA legislation, they're going to bring it in from a health perspective, but in reality, it's a financial question, right? And it's going to come to Parliament. It's already, we're already October, right? So it's going to come to you at the end of the year and say, we need you to pass this because we need to implement next year. For me, I have a lot of questions that have not been answered. And I think Parliament needs to get ahead of it because you're talking about a legislative change that will have a big financial impact on the island, on government's finances. Parliament needs to get ahead of it, start bringing in experts from Aruba, from Curacao, other places, and ask them, okay, how did it go there? What went right? What went wrong? If there's any advice you could give, what would it be? What would you change in your system that we should make sure that we don't do it the wrong way? What are the lessons learned? What are the mistakes and successes that you've had? Get ahead of it, because otherwise it's going to come to Parliament and you're going to be under the gun and say, if you don't do this, the country's going to be bankrupt and blah, 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 and
It'll
SNB
be a
will be
similar
bankrupt.
situation like the Mullet Bay situation, right? Like you'll be put into a predicament where
So
it's
get
like,
ahead of it.
Yeah.
I-
Thank
I
you
would-
very much, Mr. Lee.
I would suggest to you that you have fiduciary responsibility to all of the taxpayers and all the business owners on this island. If you're going to make such a broad, sweeping change, you can't do it, and say, oh, by the way, it starts tomorrow. You need to say, we're going to make the change. You need to explain what the change is going to be.
There'll be phases.
And what the impacts are, so that you announce it on January 1, saying this is the change that starts effective January 1 the following year. You have a responsibility to the public and the taxpayers and the business owners to not drop the government's problems on our doorstep because of your
Absolutely.
lack of ability to plan.
And any
Agreed.
plan with this kind of financial consequence, you would normally have an independent, and I mean truly independent, not somebody hired by SNV, an independent financial assessment of the plan. So in insurance, this would be an actuarial study. This would say, this is your population size, this is what the trends in your population are, this is what we project your income will be, what we project your expenses will be, and they'll give you a report on the financial viability of your proposal. From my understanding, they do not have that. The first thing I would say is, if you don't have that, take
Not
this
move forward.
back
Yep.
until you do.
Okay.
Get ahead of this because it's going to come with a gun.
It's
to
not
your
the
head.
sexy stuff, the actual illegal stuff.
It's not sexy. No.
No, but you
No,
need
but
to
it's
do it.
responsible. It's
Thank you very
financially
much.
responsible.
Thank you
Yes.
very much for that advice, Mr. Lee, because to be very truthful about it, I didn't give it that much of a thought and think that far. But indeed, I agree that Curacao and Aruba need to be reeled in to at least understand what worked and what didn't work for them before we even go to.
We don't have to.
make a
We don't have to
decision.
reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
look, the U.S.
Got to copy paste really.
the government shutdown, part of this is based on discussions about healthcare costs, right? The Democrats are hanging on, saying we want certain healthcare costs addressed, and so this is one of the contributing factors to the government shutdown in the
In the
United
US,
States.
yeah.
Healthcare costs for any country is a large percentage of their budget. Yes.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you
MP,
very much for
Promise,
having me.
promise
this
me you'll
morning.
come back.
Of course.
Okay,
of
we'll
course,
do the, we'll do this again.
of
I want
course.
you to bring, member. I want you to talk to
Minister
to
of Finance?
Yeah, because I really would like to have a conversation
All
with her.
All right.
And I've reached out, but I have not heard back. And I know she's busy. We're all busy.
Correct. As I said earlier, the Minister of Finance just handed in the budget 2025 amendment, and is the budget 2026 actually supposed to be handed in September, passed by December. But again, I'm not putting it on just this minister. It's been reoccurring that
Just like the post office.
it's just been reoccurring that it's never been passed on time.
Throw it away.
You know,
Start over.
Make your 2-page questions for her.
I'll make it even better. I'll host a Saturday morning at my house
I'm
with
there.
with the dream team.
Yeah, I'm
okay,
there.
and we'll have we'll have
Count me in.
we'll go to Le Sucre next door, coffee and croissants from them. I got the same coffee machine at the house. We'll have coffee and we have a big session.
And we'll
Come in.
invite a couple accountants that would say, look, if I was going to do an evaluation of a business, these are the questions I would ask. And then you
Easy.
just translate it to government.
Easy,
It's easy. Yeah.
easy. I got a few in mind already.
Yeah.
I'm happy to pick a rainy day. Pick a rainy Saturday. We have nothing to do, and this would be a great whiteboard exercise. for sure.
100%.
Oh.
100%.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. Viren, thank you, man.
Thank you very much for having me.
Come back and visit
this
again
morning. Whenever you're ready, I'm here.
soon. Give my best to mom and dad, and bravo.
Thank you very much.
It is 9:02. I'm almost on time. How do you like that? And thank you for joining us. Marine and tropical weather update is on the way right after these messages. Please stick around.